I can't argue with no trolls. I am a troll. This is what I do. I get on this bitch and tweet with y'all ass all day, every day.
THF Zoo was never shy about being a troll online. He lived for stirring the pot. But this time, that's not why his name's lighting up every headline. He's trending for a heartbreaking reason. He was ambushed and gunned down in Chicago, and the final message he sent to his longtime friend Lil Durk might hold the key to who was really behind the hit. Was it someone he clowned on social media? Or was there something deeper going on in the shadows? Let's get into it, because this story turns dark fast. October 26, 2025, the night that marked the tragic end of THF Zoo, born Da Vinci Bezo Collier at just 35 years old. He wasn't just another rapper. Zoo was a pillar of the Chicago drill scene, one of the early voices that helped define the movement. He was also a loyal affiliate of Lil Durk's Only the Family crew, a brotherhood that ran deep through both music and the streets.
Yo, it's your boy King Yella, man. Bezo was shot 2 times in the chest, man. Yesterday, man. We had people posting like he passed away yesterday.
According to reports, the deadly shooting went down around 3 a.m. in the 3100 block of South St. Louis Avenue, right in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood, also known as South Lawndale, a tight-knit, predominantly Mexican-American area on the city's southwest side. Police believe this wasn't random. It was a planned ambush, executed with chilling precision and heavy firepower. We're talking about a hit carried out like a tactical strike. Eyewitnesses and police scanner reports describe Zoo and 2 other men standing in a parking lot when an unknown vehicle crept up. Without warning, multiple shooters jumped out and opened fire, unleashing a storm of bullets that tore through the quiet night. The gunfire was so intense, locals said it sounded like a full-on war zone echoing through the blocks. When the chaos cleared, the crime scene told the whole story. Investigators found 20 rifle shell casings and 19 from 9mm handguns, a total of 39 shell casings scattered across the ground. That's not just a random shootout, that's an execution-style ambush. Police sources said the pattern of evidence suggests either a drawn-out gunfight or that Zoo and his crew might have fired back in a desperate attempt to survive. The city's seen its share of violence, but this one hit different. Not just because of who Zoo was, but because of what he represented. And the whispers about that last message to Lil Durk. They're what's keeping everyone on edge. 5 separate vehicles in the area were left riddled with bullet holes, a clear sign of just how wild this ambush really was. Forensic teams on scene documented impact patterns that matched high-velocity rifle rounds and standard pistol fire coming from multiple directions. This wasn't some sloppy drive-by. This was a coordinated hit pulled off by people who knew exactly what they were doing. The precision, the firepower, the setup, everything screamed premeditated. Zoo took the worst of it. He was struck several times in the torso and abdomen, shots so focused that investigators believe he was the primary target. They say the pattern of bullet wounds proved he wasn't just caught in the crossfire, he was in the line of fire on purpose. Emergency crews rushed him to a nearby hospital, where doctors fought for hours to save him, working frantically against time and blood loss. But the damage was just too much. Too many rounds, too much trauma. After several desperate hours, THF Zoo was pronounced dead, marking another heartbreaking loss for Chicago's drill community and the OTF family that helped raise him up. The 2 other men who were with him, aged 39 and 42, somehow survived the ambush. Their injuries were labeled non-life-threatening, and both were said to be in fair condition at local trauma centers. Their names are being kept private for now, as detectives try to piece together exactly what went down and why. Then came the part that lit up social media. Within hours of the shooting, graphic footage from the scene started circulating across platforms. The video showed the aftermath: cars torn apart by bullets, sirens blaring, and chaos everywhere. News outlets refused to share the clips due to how disturbing they were, but by that point, the footage had already gone viral. The internet was buzzing with speculation, conspiracies, and theories about who was behind the ambush. The Chicago Police Department has yet to publicly identify suspects, make arrests, or reveal a motive. But Area 4 detectives have officially classified the case as a targeted attack, not random violence. They believe Zoo was specifically hunted. Another victim in the growing wave of retaliatory shootings tearing through Chicago's drill and gang-linked communities. Sadly, this is just another dark chapter in the city's long, blood-stained story, where music, street ties, and territorial rivalries mix into something deadly. The South and West sides have seen this pattern again and again, lyrical beefs spilling into real violence, friendships turning to betrayal, and legacies ending too soon. What makes this one especially chilling is where it happened. The shooting took place in Little Village, a neighborhood historically dominated by Latin gangs like the 2-6 Nation and Latin Kings. That's far from Zoo's usual stomping grounds in Englewood and Taytown, areas tied to the Black Disciples and his OTF-THF roots. The fact that he was all the way across town in rival territory raises serious questions. Was he set up? Did someone lure him into a trap at a neutral location where his usual security and street support couldn't protect him? Whatever the reason, it's clear this wasn't random. This was personal, strategic, and deadly, and the last message he sent to Lil Durk before it all went down might be the clue that blows this entire case wide open. THF Zoo wasn't just another name in Chicago's street scene, he was deeply rooted in it. Through his ties with the Taytown Hustlers family, a branch closely aligned with the Black Disciples, Zoo was more than just a rapper. He was part of a legacy that stretched all the way into Lil Durk's Laren crew and the larger Only the Family, OTF movement. His connections ran deep, through neighborhoods, alliances, and years of loyalty that built his name in both the music world and the streets. Zoo's reputation came from more than just his music. It came from survival. He'd already lived through multiple shooting attempts, confirmed incidents dating back to 2022 and even earlier. Each time he walked away, his legend grew stronger. To the streets, he was untouchable. A man who could stare death in the face and keep rapping about it. But that same invincible image painted a giant target on his back. Every time he made it out alive, someone new wanted to test his luck. For rivals, hitting Zoo wasn't just about him. It was about striking at the heart of OTF's reputation in Chicago. His music told those stories raw and unfiltered. Verses filled with pain, revenge, and the constant tension of living in a city where trust is a luxury. He rapped about loss and the paranoia that comes with knowing danger could pull up any second. His lyrics carried that feeling of being trapped between fame and fear, between survival and the streets that never let you leave. Each bar was a confession from a man who lived with one eye open, always ready for the next move against him. Now, investigators with Area 4 detectives are going all in on finding out what really happened that night. They've been running through every piece of footage they can get, from street cameras, nearby stores, and even home surveillance systems in Little Village. Witnesses have been questioned, timelines built, and the evidence is piling up. The ballistic details are chilling. Nearly 40 shell casings from both high-powered rifles and handguns were recovered at the scene. Experts believe the shooters weren't just spraying randomly. This was tactical, like a squad moving with precision. Investigators say it's possible there were multiple shooters coordinating from different angles, or maybe a single car packed with armed men unleashing chaos all at once. Forensic analysts are now testing the recovered bullets and casings to trace them back to specific weapons, a process that could link this ambush to other violent crimes across the city. See, in Chicago, guns move like ghosts. They pass through hands, blocks, and crews, showing up again and again in different shootings months apart. If the same weapons appear in other cases, it could tie Zoo's killing to a larger war between rival factions still raging beneath the surface. Whatever the outcome, one thing's certain. THF Zoo's death wasn't random. It was personal, calculated, and executed with chilling intent. The internet erupted the moment news of THF Zoo's death hit the timeline. On X, formerly Twitter, fans, artists, and Day One supporters flooded feeds with heartbreak and disbelief. Timelines filled up with messages like, "Damn, RIP Bay Zoo," and "They really got Bay Zoo," raw words from people still struggling to process another loss in Chicago's drill scene. Every post carried that same heavy energy, sadness, confusion, and anger all mixed together as the community mourned one of its loudest voices. Zoo wasn't just another rapper. To many, he was a real stepper. Street slang for someone who actually lives what they rap, someone who earned their respect through action, not talk. That's why this hit so hard. The fans weren't just losing a musician. They were losing a symbol of authenticity in a genre built on survival and loyalty. Meanwhile, other users couldn't help but notice the growing cloud over OTF. Posts started popping up saying things like, "2025 really ain't OTF's year," pointing out how tragedy keeps circling the crew like a curse. From King Von's death in 2020 to Durk's federal arrest in 2024, and now Zoo's killing in 2025, the losses just keep stacking, one heartbreak after another. It didn't take long before videos and photos from the crime scene started spreading across platforms. Even though most were graphic and painful to watch, clips showing flashing police lights, shattered glass, and frantic voices began circulating within hours. Influencers and hip-hop pages jumped on the story fast, with one post from user DJ Jerry Nigga reading, "OTF affiliate THF Zoo dead at 35." A message that was shared thousands of times before major news outlets even confirmed the details. Social media once again became the front line for breaking news in the drill world. The online mourning unfolded in real time, transforming into a digital vigil where fans, rappers, and even street figures came together to grieve and speak on Zoo's legacy. The comment sections became virtual memorials, part heartbreak, part speculation, as people shared memories while also debating who might have been behind the hit, whether it was personal, street-connected, or retaliation for old beef. In today's drill culture, death doesn't wait for a press release. It hits your feed instantly, turning grief into conversation, and sometimes even threats. The lines between mourning and warning blur fast when emotions run that high. What made Zoo's death even more haunting was its timing. Exactly 1 year to the day before the ambush, on October 26, 2024, Zoo had posted his final public message defending Lil Durk after Durk's federal arrest on those murder-for-hire charges. On his Instagram story, Zoo called out the media for twisting the truth and stood up for his friend when few others were speaking up. Fans now look back at that post like a chilling prophecy, a final act of loyalty that came exactly 12 months before his own murder. That eerie timing didn't go unnoticed. OTF supporters and drill culture watchers have been pointing out the mathematical precision of the dates, October 26th to October 26th, a full year apart to the day. Some call it a tragic coincidence, others whisper it's a message from fate, a grim sign that loyalty in the streets always comes full circle, one way or another. Whatever the truth, the synchronicity adds a dark, almost poetic edge to an already heartbreaking story. THF Zoo's death wasn't just another statistic. It was a moment that stopped the drill world cold, leaving everyone asking the same question. Was this revenge, karma, or something deeper hiding in plain sight? Could THF Zoo's trolling have actually cost him his life? That's the question blowing up across timelines and forums right now.
I can't argue with no trolls. I am a troll. This is what I do. I get on this bitch and tweet with y'all ass all day, every day. You hear me?
See, Zoo was no stranger to controversy. He understood exactly how social media worked and how to use it to his advantage. He had that rare mix of charisma and chaos, the kind of energy that draws attention but also stirs trouble. He played into the culture of trolling, going back and forth online with rivals, sometimes blurring the line between entertainment and real beef. It was part of his image, part of what made him stand out. But in the streets of Chicago, words don't just stay digital. When you troll the wrong people, the consequences can come knocking in the real world. Zoo knew how thin that line was, and still walked it with his chest out. Meanwhile, Zoo's family and close friends have kept things respectful, focusing on mourning instead of rumors. In their public statements, they've asked for space and privacy during their grief, choosing not to speak about any final messages or supposed confessions he might have left behind. For them, this isn't about clout, it's about loss. Official sources like the Chicago Police Department and Cook County Medical Examiner's Office have also been tight-lipped, keeping it strictly professional. They've refused to release speculative details or confirm possible motives, saying anything more could mess with the ongoing investigation. Authorities confirmed that an official autopsy has been scheduled to determine Zoo's exact cause of death and document every injury he sustained. The process will also preserve critical forensic evidence, bullet fragments, residue, wound patterns, that could later help prosecutors identify who was behind the attack. But the full report could take weeks before it's released publicly. Now, to truly understand why Zoo's death hit so hard, you have to look at the bond he shared with Lil Durk, a connection that went way beyond music. Their loyalty was forged in the heart of Chicago's South Side, in neighborhoods where survival itself builds unbreakable ties. THF Zoo and Durk weren't just collaborators. They were brothers by struggle, molded by the same streets that raised and tested them. Their relationship grew from local block ties into the powerful Only the Family, OTF, collective, a label, a movement, and a brotherhood that turned neighborhood dreams into global recognition. For over a decade, they moved together through fame, arrests, shootouts, and endless rumors. They stood side by side through violence and victory, through studio sessions and courtroom drama. Their collabs racked up millions of streams, their loyalty earned them respect, and their defense of each other during chaos proved that OTF wasn't just music, it was family. But loyalty in the drill world comes with its own price. The same brotherhood that builds you up can also drag you into the same dangers your brothers face. To really grasp what tied Zoo and Durk together, you have to understand the South Side they came from, the overlapping networks of blocks, affiliations, and alliances that shaped their entire come-up long before fame or money entered the picture. It was a world where trust had to be earned, respect was defended by force, and loyalty wasn't just a word, it was survival. And that's exactly what made their connection powerful, and tragically, what may have made it dangerous too. Both THF Zoo and Lil Durk came out of Englewood, one of the toughest and most infamous neighborhoods on Chicago's South Side. A place marked by boarded-up houses, failing schools, and streets where opportunity is a ghost most people never get to see. Growing up there meant learning survival before anything else, watching poverty, gunfire, and gang politics shape everyday life with military-like precision. Every corner had invisible borders, every block had its own code, and stepping on the wrong side could mean the difference between living and dying. Zoo came straight out of Taytown, the area that birthed the THF, Taytown Hustlers family, set, a crew that's been closely connected to Durk's Laren crew and the larger Only the Family, OTF, network. Both of those branches fall under the Black Disciples BD umbrella, one of the most powerful street organizations in the city, controlling different territories across the South and West Sides. Within that world, alliances are fragile, rivalries run deep, and every move counts. One wrong connection can flip you from ally to enemy overnight. Loyalty, retaliation, and respect weren't just ideals. They were survival rules written in blood. For both men, this wasn't something learned later. This was life from the start. Their connection predated Durk's fame, going all the way back to the early drill days, long before record deals or platinum plaques. From 2011 to 2013, while Durk's mixtapes were starting to catch heat and pull attention from major labels, Zoo was right there in the mix. He was active in the streets and in the studio, spitting verses on local ciphers, dropping features on underground mixtapes that were passed around on burned CDs and early file-sharing sites. Before drill hit global charts, they were living it for real, documenting their lives in music while trying to survive the wars outside their doors. That early connection built a trust and credibility that can't be faked or recreated by business deals later on. Their relationship wasn't built on contracts. It was built on nights dodging danger, on loyalty that was proven in silence, not shouted for cameras. It was the kind of bond that outsiders could never fully grasp unless they'd lived it. An anonymous OTF affiliate put it perfectly in a 2023 interview when he said, "Bezu was OTF before OTF was a label. That's family, not just a feature." That single line hits hard because it captures the truth. Zoo wasn't just part of the brand, he was part of the foundation. That's what makes his loss so personal for Durk. It's not business, it's blood. In Chicago street culture, family doesn't always mean who you're born to, it's who stands next to you when it counts. Sometimes, the brothers you choose mean more than your real ones. That kind of loyalty runs deep. It's unshakable, but it's also dangerous. Because with that loyalty comes obligation. To defend, to avenge, to never turn your back. And that's where things get tragic. Those same bonds that protect you can also pull you deeper into cycles of retaliation and violence that never seem to end. In that world, betrayal is unforgivable. It doesn't just break trust, it sparks war. And when you live in that code, the stakes are everything. Zoo and Durk's story wasn't just about music or fame, it was about surviving together in a world that constantly tried to tear them apart. Their connection was loyalty carved out of struggle, and that's what made it powerful and dangerous at the same time. THF Zoo wasn't just Durk's artist, he was family, and his death wasn't just another tragedy in Chicago's drill scene. It was personal, painful, and symbolic of the loyalty that binds so many, and breaks even more. In the streets, walking away from your people isn't an option. You can't escape without being labeled a traitor or a coward. That's the code Zoo lived under, and it's what kept him locked into the world that made him. His connection to OTF wasn't built on business contracts or label deals. It was forged in trust, struggle, and shared history. While Lil Durk had his official Def Jam deal and mainstream fame, Zoo's position was different. He was a core street member and one of the crew's most authentic voices. He didn't have the suits backing him or the luxury of press agents. His credibility came from the blocks, not the boardrooms. That difference mattered. Zoo's affiliation was less about paperwork and more about loyalty. He wasn't signed because of what he could sell. He was part of OTF because of who he was and what he represented. His ties came from genuine relationships and street respect, not commercial calculation or label strategy. To the people around him, that made his place in OTF even more real. Zoo showed up on multiple OTF compilation projects, helping build the group's sound and story. One of the biggest was the 2019 release Family Over Everything, where he laced several tracks with his trademark raw energy and street perspective. His verses hit like diary entries, gritty, honest, and straight from the trenches. Those compilations weren't just music drops, they were multi-layered moves that kept OTF buzzing in the streets, put lesser-known artists in the spotlight, and documented the crew's rise and evolution. Every track was part of a bigger picture, a living archive of what OTF stood for. Then came one of Zoo's defining projects, 2023's Nightmares in the Trenches. This was more than an album, it was a statement. On this project, Zoo stepped up as the lead artist on multiple tracks, opening up about his trauma, paranoia, and life inside a cycle of danger that never seems to end. Even the title, Nightmares in the Trenches, said it all. It captured the mental toll of surviving in neighborhoods where you're never really safe, even when you think you've made it. Zoo's lyrics dug deep into that pain. The sleepless nights, the friends buried too young, and the memories that never stop replaying. He didn't glorify the lifestyle. He documented it with unfiltered truth. His verses carried that lived-in authenticity that fans of drill crave. Not watered down, not corporate, just real Chicago survival stories told in his voice. One of the standout songs, Trench Baby, perfectly showcased that magic between Zoo and Durk. Zoo opened the track with raw, heart-pounding bars that instantly set the tone, full of realism, emotion, and bite. Then Durk came in, adding depth by connecting his own journey to Zoo's perspective, turning the song into a conversation between two survivors from the same city but different stages of fame. It was a lyrical back and forth that hit home for anyone who's ever tried to escape their past while still being tied to it. The music video for Trench Baby blew up too, racking over 2.1 million views on YouTube, proof that fans still wanted that authentic drill energy. The visuals were dark, grounded, and powerful. No fancy sets or fake backdrops, just raw Chicago realism. The video showed abandoned buildings, gritty group shots, and street imagery that mirrored the emotion in the lyrics. It looked like life, not Hollywood. What made Zoo stand out was that he didn't chase the spotlight. He earned it by telling the truth. His art wasn't designed for charts. It was for the people who lived that same reality every day. His connection to OTF was a mix of brotherhood and shared survival. And even after his death, that legacy still speaks louder than any contract ever could. The visual style of THF Zoo's work always stayed true to the drill aesthetic. Dark, gritty, and real. His videos weren't about fancy sets or Hollywood polish. They captured real people in real places. The imagery, gang hand signs, heavy energy, and late-night filming gave every frame that feeling of danger and secrecy that defined Chicago drill culture. Every scene screamed authenticity, not artifice. His visuals didn't just tell stories, they documented them, preserving the raw energy of neighborhoods where survival is an everyday achievement. But one of the most powerful examples of Zoo's loyalty came not through music, but through his words. When Lil Durk got federally arrested on October 24, 2024, on murder-for-hire charges, Zoo didn't hesitate for a second. While most people went silent, scared of drawing attention from the feds or being associated with the case, Zoo stood 10 toes down. He was one of the very first OTF members to publicly defend Durk, even when it could have put him under the same microscope. The federal indictment against Durk accused him of orchestrating the 2022 killing of Savaya Lul Pab Robinson, the cousin of rapper Quando Rondo, supposedly as revenge for King Von's death in Atlanta back in 2020. The charges were heavy, carrying potential life in prison, and they sent shockwaves through both the industry and the streets. What made it worse was that prosecutors started using Durk's own lyrics, social media posts, and even music videos as evidence. It marked a clear message from the federal government. They were done watching from the sidelines. They were now using RICO laws and conspiracy charges to go after drill rappers, linking their art to real-world violence. Just 2 days later, on October 26, 2024, exactly 1 year before his own death, Zoo made a bold move. He took to Instagram, posting a story directly defending Durk and calling out the media for twisting narratives. His message read loud and clear. Social media, fake fans, bloggers, etc. know how to give unproven titles to PPL. Y'all paint false images, then act shocked when subrests don't add up. Free the real. That post wasn't just about defending Durk. It was a statement of principle. Zoo was calling out the culture of misinformation and the way social media spins accusations into facts before any trial even happens. He wasn't afraid to speak up when others stayed quiet, and in doing so, he showed what loyalty beyond self-preservation really looks like. Zoo even tagged Durk in the story, added the hashtag #DopperFreeDurk, and let the post spread like wildfire through OTF fan pages and drill news outlets. Within hours, it was circulating everywhere, cementing his image as one of Durk's most fearless and loyal supporters. It wasn't just talk, it was a public stand. And in the eyes of many, it made Zoo's loyalty legendary. And that's what made his death hit even harder. Because his street credibility wasn't something crafted in a studio, it was earned through pain. Zoo's body told his story before his words ever could. Scars from past shootings, near-death experiences, and a history of survival that kept him respected across the city. He'd already been targeted multiple times before 2025, and each time he made it out alive, it added another chapter to his legend. To fans, he was more than a rapper. He was proof that loyalty still meant something in an era when most people fold under pressure. And that Instagram post defending Durk? It now reads like a prophecy, his final fearless show of solidarity before fate circled back 1 year later to claim his life on the exact same date. For Zoo, loyalty wasn't just a slogan, it was a code he lived and died by. THF Zoo's street credibility wasn't something that came from stories or second-hand talk. It was earned through real-life experience and court battles that could have ended his freedom forever. His legal record showed multiple arrests and at least one murder charge that he managed to beat at trial. That victory alone cemented his name in the streets as someone who really lived the life he rapped about, not just borrowing stories for clout or copying other people's pain for streams. When Zoo spoke, his words carried weight. His authenticity gave every lyric, every interview, and especially his defense of Lil Durk, a depth that artists without that same credibility could never match. That's what made his public loyalty to Durk hit different. When Zoo said "Free Durk," it wasn't marketing. It was family speaking from the trenches. His support felt real because it was real. This wasn't an artist promoting another artist. This was one soldier standing up for another when the world turned its back. Fans knew the difference between forced loyalty and blood-earned respect, and Zoo's stood tall. In a 2023 No Jumper interview, Zoo opened up about the Chicago drill scene, the environment, the politics, and the pressure of turning real struggle into art. While he didn't say much about Durk directly in that particular appearance, his attitude said enough, focused, serious, and proud of where he came from. But a later sit-down would reveal even more about his mindset and his admiration for Durk's leadership. That interview, titled THF Zoo, Duty Low and Duty Low on OTF, Lil Durk, King Von, Beating Bodies, and Nightmares in the Trenches, ran for over an hour and has since passed 500,000 views. Around the 10:15 mark, Zoo dropped one of his most memorable lines, praising Durk's growth from the streets to success. He said something along the lines of, "Durk came from nothing and built this for us. He's the reason we eatin' out here. Real talk." That statement said it all. Loyalty, gratitude, and recognition of how Durk's vision turned street loyalty into a legitimate business empire. The full interview gave fans a rare inside look at OTF's inner dynamic, not just the music, but the bond behind it. Zoo talked about how OTF wasn't some industry-assembled label. It was a family unit that grew naturally from friendships, shared history, and common struggle. The creative process was raw and collaborative, with artists moving between studios, trading ideas, and building songs like conversations. You could tell these weren't business relationships. They were brotherhoods born out of survival. Even as the fame grew, that core from the block energy never faded. Zoo also got candid about his legal past, especially the case that nearly derailed his life. He explained how facing time behind bars with other OTF members actually tightened their bond, not broke it. At around the 6:30 mark, he said, "We was innocent. We was proven innocent. We proved our innocence. But we walked in the county on went to bond court, all that. The same day, you feel me. 3 months after we was in there, mother of their bitches ended up laying on the deck with each other, living with each other." That raw moment gave fans a real glimpse of what brotherhood looked like for OTF. They weren't just connected by music. They were connected by shared survival. Sitting in a cell together, fighting the same charges, depending on each other just to stay sane. That's the kind of loyalty money can't buy. What this revealed was simple but powerful. OTF wasn't built in boardrooms or chart meetings. It was built in courtrooms, holding cells, and late-night studio sessions. That's why Zoo's voice carried so much weight when he spoke on Durk, Von, or anyone in the circle. His words came from lived experience, the kind that makes you either fold or fight harder. And that's the part people outside Chicago rarely understand. For Zoo and Durk, loyalty wasn't a marketing slogan. It was their foundation, their protection, and sometimes their downfall. That interview gave THF Zoo the rare chance to speak his truth in full, not just as a rapper, but as a man who'd lived every lyric. He went deep on what loyalty really means, why authenticity can't be faked, and how success brings its own kind of burden. To Zoo, fame wasn't freedom, it was responsibility. He believed artists who make it out owe something to the ones who were there from day one. The friends who believed before the fame, who carried the weight beside them when times were rough. His message was clear. Real ones don't forget where they came from, no matter how far they go. But that same world of loyalty, fame, and survival that shaped Zoo's rise would also shape his end. The shooting that claimed his life on October 26, 2025, wasn't random. It fit perfectly into the tragic pattern that's defined Chicago's drill scene for over a decade. Once again, music, street ties, and personal grudges collided with deadly precision. According to investigators, the ambush that took Zoo's life was a targeted hit, not a spur-of-the-moment shootout. The Chicago Police Department has yet to name suspects, make arrests, or release an official motive. But detectives from Area 4 have confirmed they're treating the killing as part of the wider wave of retaliatory violence that's been sweeping through the drill community for years. The numbers tell a grim story. Chicago logged over 500 homicides in 2025 by October alone. That kind of volume overwhelms the system, stretching detectives thin and forcing them to focus mainly on the highest profile cases, the ones that make headlines or have clear trails of evidence. For everyone else, justice moves slow, or not at all. To truly understand what may have led to Zoo's death, you have to look at the web of alliances and feuds that define Chicago's south and west sides. It's a maze of loyalty and tension that outsiders can barely comprehend. Zoo's ties to THF Taytown Hustlers family and OTF placed him squarely inside the Black Disciples BD network, a structure that's been both powerful and fractured. Within that umbrella, internal conflicts run deep, with smaller BD sets clashing over territory and respect just as fiercely as they battle rival gangs like the Gangster Disciples GD and other independent crews. In that environment, reputation is currency, and survival makes you both feared and hunted. Zoo had already survived several shooting attempts before 2025, each one adding to his legend, but also painting a bigger target on his back. By then, he wasn't just another name on the street. He was a symbol, and symbols attract danger. For his enemies, taking him down would have been a statement, proof of reach, power, and revenge all in one. Meanwhile, social media lit up with speculation and street theories, none officially verified but spreading fast through X, Reddit, and Drill news pages that feed on insider talk. One of the most discussed claims points to alleged retaliation by a Black Disciples faction known as Bashful from 71st and Wabash in Greater Grand Crossing. The whispers connect Zoo's murder to a long-running series of retaliatory killings between THF and rival sets, a deadly domino effect years in the making. According to that unconfirmed street narrative, the tension sparked after a THF member named TP was allegedly killed following a robbery gone wrong. Reports claim some THF affiliates supposedly stole valuables from a rival's hotel room after a music video shoot. And in the days that followed, TP was murdered by a man known as Man Man, allegedly tied to the Veal or a related BD set. Ever since, that chain of losses, revenge plots, and street payback has spiraled out of control, pulling more names into the cycle every year. Whether that version of events holds any truth or not, it fits a familiar Chicago pattern. Nothing ever ends clean. Every act of retaliation creates another. Every tragedy sparks the next. It's a loop that no one's been able to break. Not the cops, not the artists, not even the fans who mourn each new loss online. Zoo's death wasn't just another headline. It was another echo in a never-ending storm that swallowed too many voices too soon. And for those who really knew him, the ones who saw past the music and the headlines, this wasn't just a loss for OTF. It was the fall of someone who carried both pain and pride for his city, a man who wore his loyalty like armor until it finally gave out. The streets are buzzing with retaliation rumors, and once again, social media is spinning the story faster than investigators can keep up. According to one widely shared theory, THF allegedly struck back by killing Man Man, the same figure said to be behind the earlier murder of THF member TP. Then, in a dark twist of the cycle, Zoo's October 26, 2025, shooting was reportedly framed as payback for Man Man's death, a calculated hit meant to send a brutal message to THF and OTF. No one's untouchable. That theory's been making waves across X, YouTube, Reddit, and drill-focused news pages. Users claim THF shouldn't have made it that obvious, pointing to online disses and posts that may have escalated tensions or even given rivals the green light to move. The way the story spread highlights how street talk turns into accepted truth in the internet era, fast, loud, and often wrong. With no official confirmation or credible sources backing it up, these online claims are built on speculation and whispers, not evidence. Still, the theory's logic fits the grim patterns that define Chicago's retaliatory landscape. Every shooting answered by another, every loss turned into fuel for revenge. The bashful, crazy faction of the Black Disciples, allegedly from 71st and Wabash, keeps getting named in these digital investigations, though law enforcement hasn't verified a single detail. It's a web of speculation that mirrors the way real gang conflicts evolve. Whispered stories, coded messages, and viral posts turning tragedy into rumor overnight. But that's not the only theory out there. Some alternative narratives floating online tie Zoo's murder to larger OTF rivalries, particularly with Quando Rondo's circle and even GS9 affiliates from New York, supposedly connected through King Von's old feuds. People online argue that Zoo's October 2024 Instagram defense of Lil Durk, following Durk's federal murder-for-hire arrest, might have reignited some of those long-dormant tensions. Remember, that case itself was tied to the 2022 killing of Lul Pab, Quando Rondo's cousin, which the Fed said was retaliation for Von's death. So by publicly defending Durk and calling out fake fans and bloggers for spreading lies, Zoo might have made himself a symbolic target for those still loyal to Rondo or carrying grudges against OTF. But even that theory has holes, because while the beef stretched across states, the style of the ambush didn't fit an out-of-town job. The little village hit required serious local knowledge, knowing when Zoo would be there, what routes he took, and where his protection might be weakest. That kind of precision doesn't happen without inside information or local contacts, things outsiders wouldn't have easy access to. That's why most insiders believe the shooters were Chicago-based, not out-of-state actors. Pulling off an ambush that clean, in a neighborhood far from Zoo's usual stomping grounds, takes deep territorial familiarity and connections on the ground. Locals would know the escape routes, camera blind spots, and who to avoid. All details that made this hit look surgical, not random. Another school of thought sees the attack not as revenge, but as exploitation of OTF's temporary weakness. With Lil Durk behind bars, the argument goes, OTF's street structure lost its leadership, funding, and protection. On social media, some users have bluntly said Durk was the one feeding and protecting these guys. Without his influence, the money, connections, and clout that kept certain tensions in check, the crew was left exposed, vulnerable to opportunistic rivals who'd been waiting for a crack in the armor. Among those potential opportunists, names like STL, EBT, a longtime Gangster Disciples faction, and even rival BD sets have been floated. These are the same groups that OTF and THF have had violent clashes with in the past, dating back years. In that context, Zoo's death could have been less about direct revenge and more about sending a message, proving that OTF's protection isn't what it used to be without Durk calling shots from the top. There's also the uncomfortable possibility that Zoo's own music played a part in painting a target on his back. While no specific track has been credibly linked to his death, his lyrics on Nightmares in the Trenches and other OTF collabs pulled no punches. Zoo spoke raw truths, sometimes naming rival sets or hinting at past violence, things that in Chicago can turn a song into a spark for real conflict. To outsiders, it's art. To the streets, it can sound like provocation. At the end of the day, all these theories, whether it's bashful retaliation, Quando Rondo ties, or opportunistic rivals, remain speculation, not fact. The CPD hasn't confirmed a motive, no suspects have been arrested, and investigators are still piecing together a case that feels more like a maze than a straight line. But one thing's undeniable. The cycle continues. Every rumor fuels tension, every loss invites payback, and the streets keep collecting names that once belonged to rising stars. In the end, Zoo's story feels like a mirror of Chicago itself, brilliant, brutal, loyal, and tragic all at once. In Chicago's drill scene, words aren't just lyrics, they're coded weapons. Artists like THF Zoo often targeted rivals or ops in songs using specific references, inside names, and cryptic walked free, proving once again his ability to survive situations that crushed others. Still, that moment marked him forever. He was no longer just an artist. He was a man whose life had become evidence of the line between fame and fate. Even after his release, Zoo wasn't entirely free. He lived under probation and supervision, always one step away from being pulled back into the system. In 2023, there were rumors of violations, whispers on blogs and Reddit threads, but nothing concrete ever came out. What did remain constant, though, was the danger that shadowed him. He survived multiple shooting attempts, including documented 2022 incidents tied to ongoing THF rivalries. Each time he survived, his legend grew, a badge of survival that made him both respected and targeted. Every near-death experience added to his myth, proving that Zoo wasn't just talking about the trenches, he was living in them. But each survival also reminded everyone that the streets never forget. Enemies wait years for an opening, and in Chicago, patience can be deadlier than bullets. THF Zoo's life came full circle, from Cabrini Green to fame, from the studio to the streets, always walking that razor's edge between survival and destruction. His story wasn't just about one man. It was about a generation trying to escape a system designed to keep them trapped. Zoo's loyalty, his honesty, and his pain turned him into a voice for his city. But the same streets that raised him ultimately took him back. In the end, his story stands as a reminder of what drill really represents. Real lives, real loss, and real consequences. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you on the next one.